So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast, an announced podcast, but a podcast nonetheless. And that didn't go out very well. I decided I'd take a drink before I came on camera, and the drink went down the wrong way, as if I'm not coughing enough as it is. But just do not adjust your screens. We've got 3 people on the podcast tonight, and I want to welcome Paddy, as always, onto the podcast, but also I want to welcome Vinny. You know, a lot of you guys who know Vinny from the comments here, and Vinny is an Aston Villa fan here in Ireland. I'm probably going to butcher this introduction, but Vinny will give us his life story about following Villa in a moment himself. But he's from a wonderful place called Ballycotton in County Cork. And if you haven't been to Ballycotton in County Cork, I can't help you, because you just got to go there. That's the best I can do for you, Vinny. Vinny, how are you doing? I'm going to come to you first, because everyone is hear enough of Paddy anyway.
I'm very good. You can never hear enough of the boy Kelly, as you say. If you haven't been to Ballycotton, don't blink. It's kind of, that's it. Blink and you'll miss it. I'm from Skibbereen, the home of the Roars, but I fell in love and got in trouble and ended up moving here. It's to that extent. So like we're all in trouble. In terms of Aston Villa, you know, when I was 7 or 8 or something like that, I think it was, I was in primary school, and all the boys were Man United and Liverpool, and there was a couple of Blackburns because they'd recently won the league. And you know, who was I going to support? I had a brother who was an Arsenal, I had a brother who was a Liverpool, I had a brother who was like an all good bit older than me, but I didn't want to support any of them. And I had some Irish game, I couldn't even tell you what it was, and like the graphic came up at the start, and it was like this fella, that club, this fella, that club, this fella, that club, and 5 of the starting 11 or something like that were Aston Villa, and I was like, sure, that's mostly the Irish team. I'll pick them. Jesus, what a curse I brought on myself.
I know.
Ray Houghton and Andy Townsend have a lot to answer for.
Well, yeah. As I said, we can't be speaking ill of Paul McGrath, but whatever about Ray Houghton and Townsend, they do owe us. Yeah, they owe us Irish fans.
Of course, Paddy won't allow me to speak ill of Steve Staunton either. So
absolutely not.
Yeah, we're not allowed to mention these. So there's this fantastic time in Irish football whereby there's like a 2-year blank in managership and results. So Paddy buys the almanac and he gets a big black marker and he just crosses out those results that Steve Staunton had as Irish manager, and because they don't exist in his house.
Well, he was the gaffer, and the buck did stop with him.
Yeah, and all the potential banana skins. But no, in fairness to him, fantastic player as well. And as you say, like an awful lot of Irish Villa fans did follow Aston Villa because of the Irish contingent. And you know what? Can I be really honest? Lads, I forgot to make this podcast visible to everybody. So about halfway through Vinny's monologue about how he followed Villa, everyone started piling in. They must be looking and going, why the hell are the 3 people on the screen? So I'm just going to pretty much go over what we just went through again. But yes, do not adjust your screens. We've got 3 people on the screen here. As I say, we've got the boy Kelly, as we've christened him here. And also we've got Vinny. You guys may know Vinny from the comments. He's always in the comments. He's Kahua, Also Rare, and Kahua Gaming. And Vinny is... Actually, Vinny, we might get into it in a while. We won't do it. We won't do it to start off. We might get into your football manager addiction, I think is what we can call it.
That has waned. That has waned.
But Vinny is Mr. Football Manager, I would say, in Ireland, which has a story in itself. Yeah, see the way I told you I'd big you up. People weren't able to hear my big rendition or my big tourism plump for Ballycotton and County Cork either. So they'll be able to hear it back when they listen back to it in the audio.
They'll get it on the audio pod for sure.
Get it in the audio podcast in the morning, is right. But no, Vinny, you're very welcome. Thanks a million for coming.
No bother.
Coming on.
I was delighted with the text from Paddy earlier. It was great.
Yeah, it was great. And I know I've been trying to get, we've been talking about getting you on for ages. So it's absolutely fantastic to have you on. And like we do have a kind of a traveling circus, is what I like to call this podcast, and sometimes we need to bring on one or two little people to keep us a small bit sane and to keep us a small little bit kind of righted at times. So it's always good to.
I don't know if I'm the guy to make people sane, Neil.
I was setting you up for the fall there to just bring you in as one of us.
Well, they always say what's better than 2 sexy Irishmen. I would say 3 sexy Irishmen.
You're dead right, Vinny. We do.
I feel a bit left out here. I'm the one without the beard, so I just want. How does it feel not to have the best beard on the podcast for once?
I don't know.
The gingerness.
Yeah, like Graham Fenton. I can't remember too many other ginger.
I get Shane Lowry a lot.
Shane Lowry, yeah.
As in, like, last summer I was going to play pitch and putt up in the small little course we have.
Shane Lowry arrived to a pitch and putt course.
No, but I was walking up the road with a putter and a pitcher over my shoulder and a Boyle Sports gilet on me, and someone stopped the car and said, "I swear I saw you playing golf in Dubai yesterday." Yeah, no, it's a quick flight, I told him.
Yeah, well, you got Shane Lowry. I had a hilarious situation being a man of 5'7" or 5'8", being a man of small stature, but broad in the shoulder. I had a hilarious situation whereby a guy blindly drunk out of his mind one night came up and was convinced I was Sean O'Brien, the Irish rugby player. I wanted to take a photograph. I was kind of standing there going, if you think rugby players are Sean 5'7" or 5'8", I don't know where you've been all your life, buddy. But
you don't exactly look like Peter Stringer, Neil. You don't exactly look like Peter Stringer.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Michael Huggins, I know. Let me guess, the Red Brick Palace wasn't built in a day. That's Michael Huggins. Fantastic new phrase. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
Neil, I'm more worried about this comment here.
That's what I like to see. Absolutely. Look, this podcast tonight's going to be a bit of crack. Look, as I say, Stevenage away or Stevenage at home in the FA Cup. Like, we talk an awful lot of bluster and blow and sometimes kind of make it up as we go along on this podcast here. A lot of people do. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm an aficionado of Stevenage football, because I would be doing them a disservice. One thing I do know about Stevenage is they signed Daryl Horgan, Irish footballer, Irish international signed for them on loan today. He signed on loan today from Wickham. So they do have a small bit something new going into this game at the weekend. I couldn't tell you whether he plays or not. I would imagine he would. He could be
cook tied.
I was literally just going Googling here.
Yeah. Well, other than Daryl Horgan, I can't tell you a whole pile about Stevenage, other than I went through their squad of who they've played over the last few weeks. There's not a man under 25 other than the goalkeeper who's on loan from Fulham. So there's plenty of old heads in there. So you can expect them to try and play football, but I'd imagine they won't over-exude themselves or go all out attack or anything like that. But we've been caught like this in the past, so we need to be a little bit careful about who we pick up. Did we lose to Peterborough or someone like that recently? Was that in the cup, or the League Cup maybe?
Yeah,
no way I've got in my head.
Time killings do happen, you know. They've Stevenage have actually have. Do you remember former? I think he must have played in the Premier League. Darren Caskey. Do you remember him? His son is playing. He plays for Stevenage. Jake Forster Caskey. He was really, really highly thought of at one stage. Then injuries
he's one of the ones, like I said to Paddy earlier. He was a Brighton wonder kid years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was. If in Football Manager, there's your Football Manager coming back into it. But he's playing with Stevenage. He's only just signed for them as well. Signed from Charlton Athletic. So you know, they've giant killings happening in the FA Cup, and that's why we want to give Stevenage, I suppose, the respect that they deserve. And that's why I wasn't going to come on here and start talking about and being as pretending to be as knowledgeable as I possibly could be about Stevenage, because as I say, there is going to be an awful lot of unknowns in this game. David Amu, he played for Aston Villa, didn't he? No,
Ryan Amu.
David Amu was with Liverpool. Yeah, he's with Stevenage too. But like, there's always joint killings, and no team is good. No team is too good to be beaten in the third round of the FA Cup because, as we all know, it's the magic of the FA Cup that happens. And
How many times do we hear that this weekend?
Lots of times. Lots of times.
Every time BBC open their mics in it.
Also, they've got a wily old manager, Steve Evans. Steve Evans is larger than life, man. You know,
Barnsley or something, isn't it?
Ex Leeds, Rotherham United, Peterborough, Gillingham, and but he was
he's a League One specialist.
He was the manager of Boston United, I think. Do you remember when Soccer AM used to do Boston goals, and they used to just focus in on Boston's goals? This is back in like the Tim Lovejoy era. They used to focus in on the Boston goals, and because they said that they were the only American team playing in league football at the time. But he's their manager, as I say, a wily old fox from Gillingham. He left Gillingham last season and he joined Stevenage. So you know he knows how to get results in the lower leagues. So another, like as I say, they've got a bit of a setup there at the moment. Like the players that they brought in there are no mugs, specifically at football league level. So this team are going to need a bit of mind in it the weekend. And I think the Unai Emery will show them some sort of respect. What way, like, I suppose, Paddy, to you first. Where do you think the players will? Because there will be players that will get rest for Aston Villa. Who do you think gets the rest? Or what area of the field do you think we will see players get rested in?
Well, I suppose the easiest place to start is where's the dangerous place to rest, which will probably be the centre halves. We don't have an awful lot of backup in that department, so we'll probably see those two guys staying there. I would imagine our two central defensive midfielders may get switched up along with our two wide eights. That's where I see the main changes coming up. But I'd imagine he will probably go with a Danny Ings and Leon Bailey, probably because of last night, just to probably give them a little bit of a push on, give Leon Bailey an opportunity to score a couple of goals. That's what I'd do if I was the manager, given the position that he's in. But I think it's important that we see Kamara and Louise get a rest now. I would imagine he'd also play Robin Olsen because I think he deserves it. And after that, it's anybody's guess. He might play Augustinsson. Right back, who knows? But yeah, you mentioned Reiki. I think he could be a bolter. We could see Sanson. Other than that, is anybody's guess.
I think Reiki is going to be nailed on for this. I don't know why. I just think he is. I also think we'll see minutes for Caden Young. Like, why have him on the bench in Premier League games other than to maybe just soak up that atmosphere and soak up that? Like, why have him there if you don't play him in a game where you're playing against a team that's fourth from bottom in the Football League pyramid at the moment? And as I say, we're not denigrating Stevenage. That's just where they are at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe one or two other young players. I would say Josh Feeney will be in the squad. Come the weekend. But then again, he might play Bednarek. He might play Bednarek and Chambers, two centre halves well. Like, why wouldn't you? You know.
Well, it's a good time. It's a good time to get a rest after. Is it 9 days? We 3 games in 9 days. So
sorry, Stevenage are second. Sorry, last season they finished fourth from bottom.
I was just looking there. I'm going to say.
No, they're second in the league. They've only lost 3 games this season, so they're on a run. We need to be careful. We can't go all out changing 11 players and expect to get a tune out of the team. So we will need to leave some talent in there to keep everybody afloat. So it's one of those ones where you're not hiding nothing. If you win 3-0, everybody goes, sure, you'd expect that. And then if you only win 1-0, they go, for God's sake, what were we at today? You know. So as you say, he's a cup specialist, Vinny. He has a lot of respect for all cups. He always has done, so I would expect him to go a little bit stronger than we'd expect for this one.
What do you think, Vinny?
I think Ashley Young is certain not to play. He is like, you know, he's not exactly a spring chicken. Like, the other change I'd expect, You say Reicke's a certainty. I think he's a certainty for minutes.
That's kind of what I meant as well. Yeah, I think he's certainly for minutes.
I'd be surprised if Dunker and Sanson don't start in those two positions. But like, what do I know? I expect Chambers to play. I don't know which one of the two centre backs will fall. Olsen, like Paddy says, should be rewarded with the place. And I think he might start Coutinho and Bailey and Mings.
Oh yeah, I think he starts Coutinho. I meant to say that earlier on. I think he starts Coutinho. I don't see any reason not to start Coutinho.
And like, if he could get 3 assists or something just to boost confidence or something, like anything.
Are you a fan, Vinny, of blow teams out of the water in the first 20 minutes and take your players off at halftime? Or are you a fan of start the players, give them a rest, start maybe the fringe players, or start maybe the younger players, and give the first teamers a rest and bring them on and see if they can ratchet up through the gears for the last 25 minutes or so? There's no exact science to it, and people will say, "Oh, you have to." Like, traditionally, this is the way you have to do it. But from a sports science background, I don't think there's actually any difference. I was reading an article before, but I suppose, what would be your preference on it?
I'd like to start with a little mix, as in, like, if it would be something along the lines of, if I was picking the team, that would be Olsen, Cash, Chambers, Feeney, Augustin, Den Donker, Sanson, Caden, Young, Coutinho, and Ings. That's just a combination of either Bailey or Caden Young
or whoever. Yeah.
But like, I'd like to see. It wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility that Feeney starts, because I think Emery does like him, but he just hadn't got a hold of him yet. I see a couple of reports about the youth guys and how Emery sees the future and stuff like that. I don't know if it false reports, of course, probably, but they happen too.
Anyone think we're going to see Freddie Gilbert in this game?
No.
Just to fire the cat in amongst the rod.
The only person see Freddie Gilbert at 4:30 on Sunday is if he voice calls his mother. Other than that, I expect him to continue on the missing list.
Yeah.
And the only one of what we're calling the missing people, Sanson, probably gets minutes just to put him in the window.
Maybe
that's If he fancied Sanson would have come on in the last couple of games. He's the only reason that he plays Sanson in this game is, again, to put him in the shop window.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not on the TV because we could put a couple of players in the shop window. But I'd like to see him get some minutes. Not that we're going to learn too much for him playing against Stevenage, but I think we'd all agree that we'd like to see him in there just to put him in the shop window if it needs be, or let him play for his place. I still think he has something to offer, but he's obviously not doing it on the training pitch. Otherwise, we'd have seen him by now.
It's 3 managers deep as well. You see, this is the thing. That's the major issue. Like, you'd say something if Gerrard goes, and no, but but
we're also 3 managers deep with Danny Ings, and he's still not getting the amount of game time that we'd expect. You just don't know.
He's a viable part of the squad, with Danny Ings. He's a viable part of the squad. And look, Danny Ings had some horror injuries in his career as well. So while his talent is absolutely there, maybe the 90 minutes, like, I'm not saying 90 minutes isn't for him, but he's only 30 years of age. He's just gone 30 as well. He still has plenty in the tank. But maybe the running around, chasing and closing players down that maybe you and I wants, and maybe that Steven Gerrard wanted and stuff like that. Maybe that might be a strain on the body as well, because we know he's got talent. All you to see was the finish last night was great. Actually, do you know what? One of the things I didn't notice, and I messaged you, Paddy, was Jose Sa was a good goalkeeper up until about 18 months ago. Lads, he was chronic last night. I was only looking back at it. He was absolutely chronic.
He was blaming everyone for everything.
But the gas, what he tried to do for the free kick, the Digne, like the save he made for the Digne free kick, which I thought that free kick was tame enough, and he made it out to be an absolute last ditch save, and then he slipped for the Ings goal. Not taking anything away from Ings, because I'd still think it was a great finish. And then what was he doing for the Bailey chance? He just jumped up into the air. No idea what he did there. And so anyway, that's just a small bit of an aside from that point of view. Does anyone think is that BBC Player?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I actually heard that today, but I don't even know if you can get that in Ireland or not. So it didn't register with me. But Anne says that
As
somebody
long
said
as
on
it's
Twitter
shown somewhere in the world,
yeah.
Paddy, I think we'll be able to find it
See it.
somewhere along the line. Do you know what? I'm going to throw somebody in there as a bolter. You mentioned the word bolter. I'm going to throw Declan Firth in there as a bolter to be in the squad at the weekend. And the reason being is that Declan Firth has been kind of since he moved from Chelsea in 2021. He's kind of played left back, left midfield. He's played up front at times. He's been a bit of a utility player, but he's got goals. And he's a player that I've been surprised hasn't gotten a move away on loan. And you know, if we are going to dip into the youth squad, he's 20 years of age.
Yeah.
He's a grown man. And I think maybe that's going to be my bolter that Declan Firth might get in there, because he's been, I'm not going to say he's been prolific, but he's been thereabouts. He's got goals and he can play in a multitude of positions. The only thing I suppose that kind of makes me think that he won't get in there is we haven't seen him in any of the preseason stuff.
Any squads. That's what just
squads.
I've liked him every time I've seen him play. The only thing that leads me to believe we won't see an awful lot of youth is that the under-18s play Saturday and the under 23s play Monday night. Yes. So it's going to be impossible to pull them all out to play Sunday. So that's the only thing that I think there will only be a couple.
Lamar Bogard, maybe he's made a couple of squads,
possibly. Yeah. But the few that you've mentioned, other than Firth, have all been in around the squad. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Bogard in there. Definitely Caden Young. Other than that, they probably need to be a little bit careful with who they have for Monday night. But maybe that's going to play second fiddle. Who knows?
Like as we were saying at the start, you don't want to underestimate Stevenage. You don't want to underestimate any team. Obviously, Stevenage being on the run that they're on, but like, if this is 0-0 in the last 5 minutes, it's a funny game. Football. This is what I'm trying to get at. It's a funny game, football. That I would almost expect this game to be 0-0 in the last 5 minutes, going into the last 5 minutes, more than I would expect Aston Villa to be 4-0 up. But if we were 0-0 against Wolves last night, going into the last 5 minutes, I would have felt a small bit more down than I would have against Stevenage in the Cup. And I think there's two reasons for that. Obviously, it's a cup fixture, and although you want to win cup fixtures, just weird things happen in cup games. Now, usually they happen when teams are playing when you're playing against a lower league team at home. But it could very easily be one of these games whereby Stevenage park the bus, we can't break them down, and we finish 0-0. And I wouldn't be surprised. So what I'm trying to say there is the expectation setting that I would have for myself here is that basically anything could happen in this game. But I would expect us to win, but anything could happen in this game. And I think another thing about it as well is do they still have replays in the third round of the FA Cup?
Yes, they do currently,
Yeah, because they did get rid of that during COVID, didn't they?
They did, and there's actually I sent it to you earlier there. I don't know whether you read it. There's a proposal to abolish third round replays for replays from the third round on. I think up to the fourth round there's replays currently. We've also got VAR because there's VAR at our pitch. So I think that's wrong too. I think it should be the same for everybody, a level playing field, and if one ground doesn't have VAR, none of them should. But that's just my opinion. But it's a strange one. AFC Stato has given us a list of players who have played for both clubs.
Just looking at them, they're dingers.
Which is very interesting.
Yeah, Kevin Toner. Right, I was only talking to somebody about him today. He's playing like in the third division or fourth division in Spain at the moment. Kevin Toner.
He is, yeah.
Harry McCurdy, has he not recently gone up to Scotland and he's with Motherwell?
He's with Hibs, yeah. Kevin, I actually played with Kevin Toner's dad many years ago. Show me age now, and his dad lives out in Spain, so I presume that's the connection that he's out there. But I never realised Ray Houghton played for them as well.
No, I didn't either. And I didn't.
Do you know what our head-to-head against Stevenage is like?
Yeah, no.
0.
We never played them before, have we?
Never played them, no.
Never played Stevenage. Well,
in any
anybody who's going to the game, you're going to witness history. So,
yeah. I was
it.
looking for the head-to-head, and in 10 minutes it took me until something said never played.
And
before.
Dusty has said that it's his little nephew's first ever visit to Villa Park, hoping to see the win, and I hope he sees lots of goals.
What's his
I
name,
hope
Dusty? Pop it in there. We give him a shout out, and you can.
I hope he's hooked in for
we
life.
can convert him into being a listener to the podcast.
I hope he sees a game like Barrow last year. Plenty goals.
That's it.
Yeah, I think so too. Ashley Westwood. Did Ashley Westwood play with? Ashley Westwood isn't there as well. Interesting. Right. So I know, Vinny, we got your team. You mentioned it there a while ago. Do you want to give us a reminder of what your team was there again? I remember about 9 of the players, but I think they got broken down somewhere.
So yeah, I'd be going Olsen, Cash. I see the experience would be Chambers, but he's not our first choice or second choice. Chambers, Feeney, Augustinsson, Dendonker, Sanson, and Coutinho, Bailey, Ings, and Caden Young on the right, maybe. I don't know, something like that.
Right. Be interesting. I think a lot of fans are going to be wanting to see Caden Young. I know I mentioned it at the start.
It's probably pushing it a bit, but
one that we've completely forgotten about here that Richard reminds me of is Nakamba. We haven't seen him in a long time. Does he go in the shop? Does he go in the shop window?
I don't know.
Has he been making benches?
He was on the bench. Liverpool, was it? Was Liverpool I saw him on the bench?
I'll just have a quick look.
I think he was recently on the bench, yeah.
Yes, he was. You're right. I was racking my brain to try and think of it there as well. He was on the bench recently, but like he's not been involved. Once again, he's another guy. Since he had that knee injury under Steven Gerrard, he's not been involved at all. And do I remember rightly? Yes, I do remember correctly. Was there some sort of Instagram controversy? Remember when I went on the massive tirade against Instagram?
Not like you.
That wasn't it? It was over the Marvelous Nakamba sitting in between two Lambos, and it was something silly that he put as the caption on it, but it turned out to be much ado about nothing anyway for a finish, and that's what I was getting at, that like who cares what people put up on Instagram, but yeah, he hasn't really seen much action at all. I don't know about Marvelous. Look, I suppose really the biggest thing about Marvelous is when we needed an essential defensive midfielder, he was there, but after winning the ball back and not going to ground an awful lot, his passing ability isn't really up to standard. And I think that's really going to knock him down the pecking order since Unai Emery has come in here, because he doesn't even have that 7 to 10 yard pass in him as much as other players in the team. Sanson could see getting a run all right, but I'm not quite sure about Nakamba. I don't know. And I think it was interesting yesterday, actually, Unai Emery said he'd sat down and spoken frankly with players and probably mentioned that some players that they could leave if they wished. He was one of the first names that kind of came to mind, not because he's bad or anything. It's just he's not getting a look in here, and maybe he wants to go and play football somewhere else.
The last time he was on a pitch for Aston Villa was he came on in the 88th minute against Villarreal on the 15th of December. He got a whole 3 minutes. Like
it's just over a year ago that he played that brilliant game against Manchester City when Jack returned. So there's definitely a player in there. As you say, his passing is not the best, but depends on who you're comparing him to, because I remember his passing stats that day. You couldn't believe how good the statistics were. So look, obviously Emery doesn't fancy him, or he would have come in for a few minutes somewhere other than Villarreal. But I would imagine he's up high on that list of those that can move on if needs be. And I'd say we'll start seeing a bit of movement in the next week or so once we get this game out of the way. We've got a whole week of negotiations and incomings and outgoings, I would imagine. So I'm actually surprised that he hasn't brought in a striker already, because the rumor was always that he had a striker ready to come in. Whether that's still in negotiation,
I think that just fuels the fire with me that it was somebody that's at the World Cup and he's just waiting for them to get back from. Like you look, there was a thing in Times Square. I saw a picture there of Hakimi, and Mbappe on Times Square, and the two lads had snuds on. You could just basically see their eyes, and everybody else is fine. They didn't even have hats on or whatever. And there's these two guys playing the bongos in the street, and there was a big crowd around them. But you could clearly see it was Kylian Mbappe and Hakimi. I don't know when the photograph was taken. It could have been 2 or 3 weeks ago. But it was funny. Like when I was looking at that, I was thinking to myself, "Oh yeah, do you know what? Players are still away, or players still haven't fully integrated."
Yeah,
after the World
well, it was a big story today. It was Messi's first day back for PSG today, so he got an extended rest. But I think that was mainly got to do with their fixtures weren't there, so he was lucky enough to get that extra rest, especially at his age. But yeah, I think we'll start see players back up to speed after the World Cup over the next week or so, and we might see a little bit of movement because there's been other than Gakpo, there hasn't been anything major happened since the World
Chelsea
Cup.
have been signing players on 7 and 8 year deals today, so they signed that. But that's the beauty of it. I actually, you see, Aston Villa would have done the club a huge solid if they went away and offered Boubacar Kamara a 10-year deal and gave him 100 grand over 10 years. It's only going to appreciate. And then the financial finagling they could do with regards to amortization of his contract and so on once he gets sold would be absolutely huge. It's the new way in football. I was tweeting about it today. There's a reason Chelsea gave this guy a 7.5 year deal. It's to stay within financial fair play. They can amortize. So when people talk about transfer fees don't matter a drop in the ocean. Okay, they do once they go over a certain amount. If you're talking signing someone for 20, 30 million now, doesn't really matter a drop in the ocean if you structure the contract correctly. Listen to the Price of Football podcast. Listen to Kieran Maguire on it. Don't take my word for it. The teams are now going to start spreading contracts out over years and are going to use the financial finagling that they can do with regards to accounting practices and amortization of contracts in a positive way. I've been trying to find a video. There was a video Tifo Football I'm almost with 100% certain had up at one stage, and it went through the amortization of Henrik Mkhitaryan's contract and Angel Di Maria's contract at Manchester United. And when they sold both those players, they made huge profits on them on the basis of the structuring of their contract and how they could report financially on those profits in future years after they were sold. So bear that in mind. I don't fully understand it. I'm not an accountant. I would love to get an accountant on, a proper footballing accountant on to discuss it because it's really interesting and it's not new to anybody. I just don't know why somebody hasn't just completely taken the bull by the horns. Maybe because teams are still struggling with COVID, infrastructural, trying to build up their finances and so on. But Chelsea have gone out and Chelsea have done it today, and it's the first thing on everybody's lips saying, "Hey, this is going to be new. 7.5 year contracts. We're going to see more of these as teams want to spend more money on players. They're going to bring in other players then on these bigger contracts and amortize their contracts throughout the course of or amortize the funding on them out towards. It's basically essentially it's buying a player on a credit card. Think of it that way, or buying it on Klarna. So more to come on that. Maybe not for me because I've threatened to do this podcast, I'd say, for the last 2.5 years, but I don't want to get the details of it wrong because it's very intricate. I have an understanding of it, but I don't want to get the details wrong. So I'd like to get somebody else to come in and do it with me. If there's any financial accountants there, or there's anybody who understands amortization and contracting, please give me a DM. I'd love to get you to come on and explain it to us from that point of view. Paddy, what's your team going to be for tomorrow? I know I asked Vinny for his team. Vinny gave it to us twice.
Yeah, I think it's just anybody's guess. But I expect to see Olsen, as I said. I think Augustinsson will start. Right back is a tricky one to pick. I don't know whether he mixes up the centre half. I think he might play it a bit safe there. I think that'll be his safety net. I think he could play the two guys. He could play Mings and Chambers, Mings and Bednarak. I think Mings will play. Or Ming, he could play Konza. I don't know, but I think he'll just keep that just a solid there, a leader within that bunch. And then I hope he gives a rest to the two boys that are sitting midfielders and mixes that up. So possibly see Sanson in there. Gaz just said there tomorrow. You did say the match was tomorrow. It's on Sunday. Yeah.
That's just course of habit.
Yeah. I also think it's a game for Coutinho. I think Coutinho will start. I think Bailey will start because I think the guy is crying out for a goal. He literally crying out for a goal last night.
He's not the only one.
bad choice of words. I got lashed over for last night. But look, he needs a goal. He had a couple of chances against Liverpool, which he scuffed as well. So he could do with a goal. So I think we put him in there alongside Ings, and then possibly Caden Young on the other side. So that's what I think will happen. Right back is the only one I wouldn't be too sure what he'll do with that. He might give Matty Cash a game in there to get more minutes in the legs.
Chambers could go there. I just thought of that.
Chambers could too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to go through my team because I'm going to be here for the team sheet tantrum. So I have 10 minutes to fill at the start of the team sheet tantrum. So I'm going to talk about who I think is going to be playing then. One thing I do want to say as well about the Leon Bailey thing last night as well. It was really interesting actually. Steffi Gregg, his friend from Jamaica who passed away, I think it was last year or the year before. He did put up a post, a couple of posts about Steffi Gregg prior to the game. So potentially one of the reasons why he was emotional on the field was
and that's fair enough. And I think I sent that to you this morning.
It was personal, potentially it was personal.
We did allude to it last night, and I think it's fair that we take that into consideration. That that's why he was so emotional. Yeah. And
it stands to reason that because he was very emotional. Remember, he scored after Steffi Gregg passed away as well, and he had a T-shirt that had it on, and he cried after scoring that goal as well. So there was some attachment, there was some friendship, or there was some kind of relationship there, or whatsoever, or whatever should I say. And as I say, he probably would have loved nothing more than score a goal on her birthday to honor her as well. So look, all these little things get taken into account, I suppose. Look, as I say,
I have no problem with a player showing passion like that. Like that's what you want to see. You want to see someone with the drive and determination, and like I said, the main word being passion. A passion that he was upset. He was visibly upset that he didn't score that goal. Whether it was for him, whether it was for Aston Villa, whether it was for the Aston Villa fans, or whether it was for the memory of his friend, that's passion. If someone's showing passion's a good thing for me, innit?
And look, we obviously went live straight after the match last night, so we didn't see any of the interviews, and I thought Emery spoke very well about it, and said he was very happy to see the passion that was there, and to see that he's upset, and he alluded to the fact that he needs a goal as well. So I was happy to see him say that. So he was obviously upset still in the dressing room, judging by what Emery said. So look, take that passion, put it on the pitch, put the ball in the back of the net. That's what he needs to do for me.
Yeah, and I think he'll get minutes against Stevenage to prove that, and to put that right, and to ping a couple into the top corner. Well, lads, somehow we've eked 37 minutes out of a preview for a team none of us. Actually, in a way, it's been good kind of learning about Stevenage as we've gone through here, the little bit that we did, and even the little parts there that we haven't, the players that have played for Stevenage, Aston Villa, as I say, we will treat them with nothing but respect when they come to Villa Park at the weekend. I do expect a win, but with Aston Villa, you can expect a win, but also be prepared for a 0-0 draw as well. That's just the way Aston Villa rolls. Look, as Vinny said at the very start, for some of you who weren't here, we picked our team. We got to live with it now.
Last night was the first time I expected a win out of the game since Emery took over. Of course, that bit me in the arse, didn't it?
I actually, do you know what? I was more confident, I think, against Spurs. I just had a feeling in the Spurs game that something was going to happen. And it turned out to be right. But this game at the weekend, let's go for a run in the FA Cup. Who knows where it's going to take us? We have a cup manager as well. And as Paddy's alluded there, Daniel Salter says, I'm a qualified accountant. You're pretty much right. High level, if you sign someone for 5 million over 5 years in the accounts you showed us using 1 million of the assets, useful economic knife per year. Yeah, that they were actually the terms that were used in this YouTube video that I saw as well. So at least my memory isn't failing along with everything else. And thank you so much, William Baines. Yes, I actually meant to click on that at the very start. I really appreciate that, William. That is really, really kind of you. I really appreciate that as well. So also, just before I go, I want to thank everybody. We sold out of hats. Literally, we're out of hats now, and they're on back order at the moment.
I got one of the last three last night. You said I had 3 left. I was like, YouTube closed. Order. Just looking there, I thought I saw one sneaking out from underneath there, but no, the hats are cool. We have them on back order at the moment. They're still up there. Also, we've got T-shirts just like this one, printed crest. There as well. If anybody's looking for something, looking to support the podcast, look, as I say,
we're not going to over egg the pudding and flog them too much. But I know a lot of people have reached out to us. So if he's modelling one of the mugs as well that are available in Northern Ireland Mug Company too, I must actually put them up in the website as well. I must find a way to link to their site. But no, as I said, a lot of people have reached out to us over the years and asked us, are we going to get any merch? And we've been slow enough in getting it because we wanted the price points to be somewhere right. But I suppose in the current shipping economic climate that we have at the moment, it was never going to fall low enough. But we just said, listen, people asked for it, so we put it up there. And if people buy it, then thank you so much for it. And the hats should be back in. I think it's mid-February. I don't want to be putting too much pressure on John in case John is watching this.
God, the winter be over then. The winter be over then.
I don't count your chickens, Vinny. This is Ireland. But anyway, listen, we're rambling now. I'm rambling. Vinny, thanks so much for popping on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
And Paddy, as always, thank you very much for popping on. Sunday. Oh, sorry, what day is the game again? I've confused myself yesterday. Sunday.
4:30 on Sunday.
4:30 on Sunday. We play Stevenage at home. Here's hoping to a win, and here's hoping to a run in the FA Cup under our cup maestro in Unai Emery. So thanks everybody for listening. Listen, stay safe, stay healthy, and until next time, all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.